I knew my marriage was over the moment I smelled a stranger in my own house. Not the cheap kind of cologne you notice and forget. This one was sharp, confident, like it belonged to someone who had time, money, and no reason to rush. I stood there with my hand still on the door handle, my suitcase tipping over onto the hardwood floor, rainwater dripping onto a rug my wife had begged me to buy last fall. I hadn't planned on coming home early. That was the problem. Early arrivals don't give people time to hide who they really are. My name is Jack Miller. I'm not dramatic by nature. I fix problems for a living, negotiate contracts, read between the lines. I don't jump to conclusions. But that smell hit me before the silence did, and my gut tightened in a way I hadn't felt since the day my daughter was born, and everything suddenly mattered more than me. The house looked clean. Too clean. The couch pillows were lined up like a magazine photo. The kitchen counter was empty except for a single coffee mug in the drying rack. Not mine. Not my wife's. It was taller, darker, heavier. A man's mug. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at it like it might explain itself if I gave it time. Emily came out of the bedroom smiling, already mid-sentence, already pretending the world was exactly how it was supposed to be. "You're home?" she said, surprise wrapped in warmth. "Flight got canceled," I said. My voice sounded normal. That scared me more than anything. She hugged me. Her arms felt familiar, but her body was tense, like she was holding something back. Over her shoulder, I noticed the hallway camera was off. The small blue light that never slept was dark. That camera had been my idea. A year ago, after Lily started coming home from school alone. Emily said I was paranoid. I said I was careful. We compromised, like married people do. The camera stayed on. Until now. "Where's Lily?" I asked. "At Sarah's," Emily said too quickly. "Sleepover." I nodded. I kissed her forehead. I rolled my suitcase into the bedroom and took a shower, letting the hot water drown out the noise in my head. I told myself there were explanations. There were always explanations. People didn't just destroy families for fun. Wives didn't lie to husbands they'd built a life with. Mothers didn't put their children in the middle of secrets. That night, Emily fell asleep with her back to me. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting cracks, listening to the house breathe. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and opened my laptop. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break in. I built that system myself. I knew where the backups lived, tucked away in a cloud account Emily had never touched. Deleting footage from the device didn't erase the past. It just made people feel safe. I wasn't looking for proof of an affair. Not yet. I just wanted to know why the camera was off. I scrolled through the dates and stopped 3 days back. The feed jumped, then resumed in the middle of the afternoon. The living room came into view. Lily was sitting at the table, her backpack still on, her hair messy, her legs swinging nervously. She was crying. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it might shake the desk. She wiped her face and whispered something I couldn't hear at first. Then she spoke louder, and the words landed like a punch to the chest. "Dad can't find out. Mom said if he does, everything breaks." I leaned closer to the screen, my hands cold, my mind screaming for this to stop being real. A shadow crossed the floor. A man stepped into frame. Tall, relaxed. He crouched beside my daughter and put his hand on her shoulder like he belonged there. "Good girl," he said calmly. "Just do what we talked about." The screen went black. I sat there until morning, watching nothing, breathing through something that didn't have a name yet. By the time the sun came up, I understood one thing with perfect clarity. Emily hadn't just cheated on me. She had chosen to sacrifice our daughter's silence to protect her lie. And I wasn't going to make the mistake of confronting her before I understood exactly how deep it went. I didn't confront Emily the next morning. I made coffee, packed Lily's lunch like I always did, and kissed my wife on the cheek before she left for work. My hands were steady. My smile worked. Inside, something had gone quiet, like a switch had flipped and taken the noise with it. I picked Lily up from school myself. She climbed into the passenger seat and started talking about a math quiz and a girl who'd gotten in trouble for chewing gum. Normal kid stuff. I nodded, answered when needed, kept my eyes on the road. When we stopped at a red light, I glanced over and saw a faint yellow bruise just above her wrist, half hidden by the sleeve of her hoodie. "Did you bump into something?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She froze. Just for a second. Then she shrugged. "Yeah, I'm clumsy." I didn't push. That was the hardest part. Everything in me wanted to pull over, take her face in my hands, and ask her who touched her, who scared her, who made her feel like she had to protect adults from the truth. But I knew better. Pressure makes kids shut down. Fear teaches them how to lie better. That night, after Lily went to bed, Emily poured herself a glass of wine and sat across from me on the couch. "You seem tired," she said. "Long week," I replied. She smiled, relieved. I realized then how much she needed me to stay predictable, calm, blind. Over the next few days, I paid attention. Not in an obvious way. I listened. I watched patterns. Emily started guarding her phone like it was an organ she couldn't live without. She took calls outside. She showered longer. She dressed nicer for errands. I found receipts in the trash from a restaurant we'd never been to together. Expensive. The kind of place you don't go alone. I didn't take pictures. I didn't confront her with evidence like some angry husband in a movie. That kind of rage makes mistakes. I needed clarity, not chaos. I went deeper into the camera archives. I found more gaps. Carefully timed. Always when Lily was home early. Always when Emily was working late. Then I found audio. A clip that hadn't been deleted properly. Just 30 seconds. Emily's voice, low and tense. A man laughing softly. And Lily crying in the background. "If you tell your father," Emily said, "he'll leave us. Do you want that? Do you want to be the reason everything falls apart?" I shut the laptop and sat in the dark, my chest burning. That was the moment I stopped thinking of Emily as my wife. She became a problem that needed to be handled carefully, legally, and permanently. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, phone numbers. I hired a private investigator and told him I suspected financial infidelity, not just personal. That gave me cover. He was good, quiet, professional. Within 2 weeks, I had a name. Ryan Collins. Married once. Divorced. No kids. Worked in commercial real estate. Confident. Clean record. The kind of man who thought rules were suggestions for people without imagination. Emily didn't know I'd already met him. I didn't hate him yet. Hate is loud. What I felt was colder. Focused. I began planning an exit that didn't look like one. A slow shift of power. Assets. Leverage. Custody. Emily thought she was winning. She had no idea she'd already lost the only thing that mattered. Ryan Collins wasn't hard to observe once I knew what to look for. Men like him move through the world like they're invisible, convinced confidence is the same thing as intelligence. He parked in the same garage downtown, worked out at the same gym every morning, ordered the same black coffee from the same cafe. Routine is comfort. Routine is also weakness. Emily said his name for the first time a week later, by accident. "I might be late tonight," she said while rinsing dishes. "Ryan wants me to look over some numbers for the shop." She stopped mid-sentence, like she'd stepped on glass. I didn't react. I just nodded. "Sounds good," I said. "I'll put Lily to bed." That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and opened a new spreadsheet. I started listing everything tied to Emily's name. Accounts, credit cards, the small online boutique she'd started 6 months earlier, the one I'd helped fund because I wanted her to feel independent, empowered, safe. The business wasn't really hers. Not yet. On paper, I was still the backbone, the guarantor, the quiet safety net she didn't think about anymore. I also started recording Lily's behavior. Not secretly, not with cameras, just notes, nightmares, sudden silence, flinching when Emily raised her voice. These weren't accusations. They were facts. One evening, Lily crawled into my lap while we watched TV and asked a question that didn't belong to a 10-year-old. "Dad, if grown-ups do bad things, do they always get in trouble?" I felt my throat tighten. "Not always," I said carefully. "But sometimes the truth takes a while to catch up." She nodded like that made sense, then rested her head against my chest. I stayed still long after she fell asleep. The investigators sent me photos. Emily and Ryan entering hotels, laughing, holding hands like teenagers. In one picture, Ryan's hand was on Emily's lower back, guiding her forward like she needed direction. I studied that photo longer than the rest. I wasn't jealous. I was measuring. I also found something else. Ryan's company was mid-negotiation on a large commercial deal. Sensitive, quiet. Any hint of instability would scare investors. Affairs weren't illegal, but leverage didn't care about legality. It cared about pressure. I began making changes Emily didn't notice. I moved money between accounts, shifted automatic payments, updated passwords, all legally, all slowly, like turning down a dimmer switch. She was too distracted to see it. Love, or whatever she thought she felt, had narrowed her vision. One night, Emily came home glowing. She kissed me longer than usual. "You're being amazing lately," she said. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." I almost laughed. Instead, I smiled and said, "We're a family. That's what matters." Later, lying beside her in the dark, I realized the hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was pretending I didn't already know how this would end. Emily started trusting me again. That was the part that made my skin crawl. The more secure she felt, the more careless she became. She left her phone face up on the counter. She talked openly about future plans that didn't include me, without realizing she was doing it. She treated me like furniture. Solid, useful, unmoving. Ryan started coming around more. Not inside the house. Not yet. But he picked her up down the street instead of the driveway. I watched from the upstairs window once as she laughed in his car, her hand resting on his arm, her wedding ring gone. She looked lighter, younger, like she'd stepped out of a life she no longer respected. That night, Lily wet the bed. She hadn't done that in years. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom shaking, her face pale, eyes wide with shame she didn't deserve. I got up before Emily could say a word, wrapped Lily in a towel, and took her to the bathroom. "It's okay," I said softly. "It happens." She nodded, biting her lip. When I tucked her back in, she grabbed my wrist. "Dad," she whispered, "if I tell you something, will you be mad?" I sat on the edge of her bed. "Never at you." She hesitated, then shook her head. "Never mind." I didn't push. I kissed her forehead and turned off the light, then walked into the hallway and stood there until my hands stopped shaking. The next morning, Emily complained about being tired. She said Lily was being dramatic lately. Sensitive. Difficult. I looked at my wife and realized something important. Emily didn't see Lily as a child anymore. She saw her as a liability. That realization changed the timeline. I met with a family lawyer during my lunch break. I didn't tell him about the affair at first. I talked about custody, about emotional manipulation, about coercion. When I showed him the video, his face hardened. "This isn't just divorce," he said quietly. "This is protection." That word stayed with me. Protection. I installed a separate recording app on my phone and started leaving it on the table when Emily spoke to Lily. I didn't bait her. I didn't provoke her. I just let her talk. She did the rest herself. "If you ruin this for me," Emily said one evening, her voice sharp, "you'll regret it." Lily stared at the floor. "You don't want to live with your dad full time, do you?" Emily continued. "He's never home. He wouldn't understand you like I do." That was the moment Lily looked at me. Just for a second. Enough. The investigator called me 2 days later with something new. Ryan wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was using her business to move money. Small amounts. Clean. But illegal. The kind of thing that didn't matter until it suddenly did. I told the investigator to keep digging. I wasn't in a hurry. That night, Emily told me she loved me. I believed her. I just knew it wasn't enough anymore. The word protection kept echoing in my head long after the lawyer's office faded behind me. It followed me through meetings, through traffic, through dinner conversations where Emily laughed too loud and Lily barely spoke. Protection wasn't about winning. It wasn't about revenge. It was about creating a future where my daughter could breathe without measuring every word. Emily started slipping. Little things at first. She forgot Lily's school presentation. Missed a parent-teacher email. She was late picking her up twice in 1 week. Each time, Lily waited on the front steps with her backpack on, staring at the street like she was expecting someone else to show up. So I did. The third time it happened, Lily climbed into my car without a word and buckled herself in. "Mom said she was busy," she said quietly. I nodded and drove. I didn't ask questions. I didn't say anything bad about Emily. I just showed up. Consistently. Calmly. Like a parent is supposed to. That night, after Lily went to bed, Emily accused me of trying to turn our daughter against her. "You're always there now," she snapped. "Like you're keeping score." "I'm her father," I said. "That's not a strategy." She scoffed and poured herself another glass of wine. "You think you're better than me?" she said. "You think you're some kind of hero?" I looked at her and felt something close to pity. "No," I said. "I think you're scared." She laughed, but her eyes didn't. Ryan came up more often after that. Not by name. Just hints. Complaints about pressure. About expectations. About needing space. Emily talked like a teenager again, dramatic and restless. One evening, Lily didn't come down for dinner. I found her sitting on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. "Dad," she said, her voice barely there. "What happens if parents get divorced?" I sat beside her. "Sometimes things change," I said. "But that doesn't mean you lose anyone." She nodded slowly. "Mom said if you leave, it's because of me." Something inside my chest cracked open. "That's not true," I said firmly. "Nothing that's happening is your fault. Ever." She stared at me like she was trying to memorize my face. That night, after everyone was asleep, I copied every file, every recording, every message onto 3 separate drives. One stayed with my lawyer. One went into a safe deposit box. One stayed hidden in my office. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. The investigators sent me a final report. Ryan had been skimming money through Emily's boutique, routing payments through shell vendors. Emily wasn't the mastermind, but she wasn't innocent either. She signed what he told her to sign. Asked just enough questions to feel involved, not enough to feel guilty. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer for the following week. I didn't tell Emily. Instead, I helped her plan a weekend getaway with Ryan. I watched her pack. I kissed her goodbye. I told her to have fun. She didn't see the shift in my eyes when the door closed behind her. That weekend, Lily and I made pancakes. We went to the park. We laughed. For the first time in months, she slept through the night. I realized then that the house already felt lighter without Emily in it. And that made the next step very clear. Emily came back Sunday night smelling like expensive soap and freedom. She kissed Lily on the head, gave me a quick hug, and went straight to the shower. I watched her disappear down the hallway and felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. The decision had already been made. I was just waiting for the right moment to let the truth catch up. Monday morning, I took a personal day. Emily thought nothing of it. She was busy texting, smiling at her phone, living in a future she believed was already secured. I drove Lily to school myself and walked her to the door. "I'll be here," I said. "Same time as always." She nodded and hugged me tighter than usual. Then I went to my lawyer's office. We didn't talk about emotions. We talked about timelines, about custody filings, about emergency motions and protective orders. He told me we had enough to act, but timing mattered. Judges didn't like drama. They liked patterns, stability, proof of intent. "Let her keep digging," he said. "You stay steady." That afternoon, I met someone else, a therapist who specialized in children caught in parental conflict. I didn't bring Lily. Not yet. I just wanted guidance, documentation, a professional who could say, clearly and credibly, that what was happening in my home wasn't healthy. When I got back, Emily was already there. She was nervous. I could tell by the way she cleaned the same spot on the counter over and over. "We need to talk," she said. "Okay," I replied. She sat across from me, folded her hands, and tried on a serious expression like it was a costume. "Ryan's going through some things," she said. "Business stuff. Stress. He might need to stay with us for a bit. Just temporarily." The audacity of it almost impressed me. "With us," I repeated. "With Lily." She sighed like I was being difficult. "He's not a stranger," she said. "And it's not like anything inappropriate is happening." I leaned back in my chair. "Emily," I said evenly, "you want your boyfriend to live in our house." She flinched. Just a little. "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said." Her face hardened. "You're never here," she snapped. "You don't get to control everything just because you pay the bills." I stood up. "You don't get to rewrite reality," I said. "And you don't get to decide what's safe for our daughter alone." She laughed, sharp and defensive. "You think a judge would side with you?" she said. "You're gone half the time. I'm her mother." That was the moment I knew she truly believed she was untouchable. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I just nodded. "We'll see," I said. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I was angry, because I was done pretending we were still married. At 3 a.m, I heard Lily crying. I sat up just in time to hear Emily's voice from Lily's room. "You have to stop acting like this," Emily said. "You're making things worse." I stood silently in the hallway and recorded everything. When Emily came out and saw me, her face went pale. "How long were you standing there?" she asked. "Long enough," I said. She didn't sleep after that. Neither did I. But for the first time, I knew the end was no longer theoretical. It was scheduled. Emily didn't speak to me the next day. She moved through the house like a ghost, quiet and sharp-edged, slamming drawers just loud enough to be noticed. Lily stayed close to me, her hand brushing mine whenever we crossed paths, like she was checking to see if I was still real. I filed the emergency motion that afternoon. Not a dramatic filing. No accusations in bold letters. Just facts. Dates. Transcripts. Professional evaluations. The kind of paperwork that doesn't shout, but leaves no room to argue. Emily was served at work. She came home shaking, eyes red, holding the envelope like it might burn her. "You went behind my back," she said. "I went in front of a judge," I replied. "That's how this works now." She screamed then. Not words. Just sound. Rage mixed with fear. She accused me of manipulation, of poisoning Lily, of planning this for months. She wasn't wrong about one thing. I had planned. That night, Ryan showed up anyway. I wasn't home when he arrived. I was at Lily's therapist appointment, starting the paper trail that would protect her long after this was over. When we pulled into the driveway, his car was already there. Emily met me at the door, blocking the hallway. "He's just here to talk," she said desperately. "Please don't do this in front of Lily." I looked past her and saw him standing in my living room like he belonged there. "Ryan," I said calmly, "you need to leave." He smirked. "Man, this is between you and your wife." I stepped forward. "This is between you and the law," I said, "and you should walk away while you still can." He laughed again, but there was something nervous in it. "You don't know what you're talking about." I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit play. Emily's voice filled the room. Lily's crying. Ryan's calm, confident tone telling her to be a good girl. The silence that followed was heavy and final. Ryan's face drained of color. Emily collapsed onto the couch. "Get out," I said. Ryan didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket and left without looking back. Emily started sobbing, real sobs now. She reached for me like I could still be something familiar. "I was scared," she said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I stepped back. "You crossed the line the moment you used our daughter as a shield," I said. She slid to the floor. "I'll do anything," she whispered. I believed her. I just knew it didn't matter anymore. That night, Lily slept in my bed, her head on my shoulder like she used to when she was little. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, knowing the next part wouldn't be gentle, but it would be clean, and it would be final. The house felt different after Ryan left. Quieter, but not peaceful. Like the air was holding its breath. Emily barely left the bedroom. She called her mother, her sister, her friends. I heard my name come up more than once, followed by long silences. I didn't correct her version of the story. The truth didn't need help anymore. The court moved faster than she expected. Temporary custody was granted to me, pending a full hearing. Supervised visitation for Emily. The judge didn't look angry when he signed the order. He looked tired, like he'd seen this story before and knew exactly how it ended. Emily read the papers at the kitchen table, her hands shaking. "You're taking her from me," she said. "I'm keeping her safe," I replied. She looked up at me with something close to hatred. "You planned this." "Yes," I said. She laughed bitterly. "You think she'll thank you one day?" "I think she'll sleep at night," I said. "That's enough." Emily packed a bag and left that afternoon. No screaming. No final speech. She hugged Lily too tightly, whispered something I couldn't hear, and walked out without looking back. Lily watched from the window until the car disappeared. "She said it's my fault," Lily whispered. I knelt beside her. "She's wrong," I said. "And adults don't get to put their mistakes on kids." That night, Lily asked if she could sleep with the light on. I said yes. I sat on the floor until she drifted off, then stayed there longer, listening to the house settle around us. Ryan was arrested 3 days later. Not for the affair. For the money. Federal charges. White-collar crimes don't care about feelings, only numbers. He called Emily once from a blocked number. She didn't answer. She called me instead. "I didn't know," she said through tears. "He lied to me." "He told you enough?" I said. "You just didn't want to hear it." The hearing date was set. Witness lists finalized. Evaluation scheduled. Emily's lawyer reached out. So did mine. I kept my responses short. Professional. Clean. I wasn't angry anymore. I was protecting what mattered. The night before the hearing, Lily handed me a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this," she said. "For the judge." I opened it after she went to bed. It was a letter. Simple. Honest. About fear. About secrets. About wanting to live where she didn't feel sick all the time. I sat there and cried for the first time since this began. Not because I was losing something, but because I finally understood what I was saving. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No drama. No shouting. Just wood, paper, and the low hum of a system that moved slowly but deliberately. Emily sat across from me, thinner somehow, her confidence stripped away. She didn't look at Lily. I wasn't sure if that was guilt or strategy. Lily sat beside me, clutching a stuffed animal she'd outgrown years ago but hadn't been ready to give up. I held her hand under the table. The judge listened. That was the thing that surprised me most. He didn't rush. He asked questions. He let the therapist speak, then the investigator. He reviewed transcripts. He watched short clips of audio, his face unreadable. When Lily's letter was entered into record, Emily broke down. She cried openly, shaking, apologizing to anyone who would listen. The judge didn't interrupt her. When it was over, he leaned back in his chair and took a long breath. Children are not tools, he said calmly. They are not leverage, and they are not responsible for adult choices. He granted me full custody. Supervised visits remained for Emily. Mandatory counseling. No overnight stays. No contact between Lily and Ryan, ever. Emily looked at me then. Really looked. I never thought you'd do this, she said quietly as we stood. I never thought you'd make me, I replied. Outside the courthouse, Lily squeezed my hand. Is it done? She asked. For now, I said. But the hard part's over. That wasn't entirely true. Emily tried to appeal. She didn't win. She posted vague messages online about betrayal and narcissism. Some people believed her. Most didn't matter. Months passed. The house filled with new routines. Therapy on Wednesdays. Movie nights on Fridays. Quiet mornings where Lily laughed without checking the room first. Emily faded from our daily lives, slowly, painfully. She showed up late to visits. Missed one, then another. One afternoon, Lily came home and said something that stayed with me. I don't feel scared anymore, she said. Is that normal? I smiled. It should be. Ryan took a plea deal. 5 years. No early release. Emily called me once after that. I lost everything, she said. No, I replied. You gave it away. I hung up and blocked the number. That night, I sat on the porch while Lily slept, watching the lights come on down the street, realizing something unexpected. I wasn't angry. I was free. And so was my daughter. The mornings were quiet now, in a way that felt alive instead of empty. Lily would wake up, curl against me for a few minutes, and then run off to make breakfast or feed the dog. I watched her grow without the shadow of fear hanging over her shoulders. Every laugh, every careless moment reminded me why I had fought so hard. Emily was a memory that didn't sting anymore. I never celebrated her mistakes. I didn't need to. Time and law and honesty had done that for me. Lily asked about her sometimes, and I told her the truth without bitterness. Some people make choices that hurt others. We can't control that, but we can control what we do next. She nodded, smart beyond her years, and moved on to her homework or a game. I started rebuilding my life too. Work was steady. Friends came over. We went on small trips, a weekend at the lake, ice cream cones in the summer heat. Normal things that felt extraordinary because they were ours alone. Nights on the porch became our ritual. We'd sit under the stars, talking about everything and nothing, our hands brushing on the railing, hearts lighter than they had been in years. Sometimes I thought about Emily or Ryan. Not often, just long enough to remember the lessons. Trust, vigilance, patience, and the quiet power of planning, of protecting what truly matters. I didn't dwell on anger. That energy was better spent making sure Lily felt safe, loved, and free to be herself. One evening, Lily looked up at me with a mischievous smile, her hair a wild halo in the porch light. Dad, do you think I could stay up late tonight? She asked. I laughed softly. Depends. Are you going to promise to behave? She grinned. I'll try my best. I nodded, thinking about how much we had endured together and how far we had come. For the first time in years, I felt a deep kind of peace. Not because life was perfect, not because we had escaped pain, but because we had survived it, and we had each other. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the night hum around us. Lily's soft breathing, the crickets in the yard, the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. And I knew, without a doubt, that nothing could ever take this from us. We were safe. We were free. We were finally home. And that was everything.